What happened to that good old-fashioned Latino support that they had in 2024? All right. This is HQ. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe. We are trying to get to 5,000 viewers. Please and thank you. So, in early 2026, Democrats flipped the Texas state Senate seat that Donald Trump had won by 17 points just 1 year earlier. 17 points. That's not a purple district. That's a solid red district. Democratic candidate didn't squeak by. The shift compared to prior results was over 30 points. Then Louisiana, another Trump district, deep red. Democrats overperformed there too by roughly 30 to 40 points compared to the last general election. When that kind of swing happens, once, maybe it's local. When it happens in multiple red states, you gotta start paying attention, okay? So analysts went back and looked at who moved. Latino voters have been known to be the ones to move these races. The Latino vote swung very hard. In parts of Texas, the shift towards the Democrat was around 50 points compared to prior performance. Now, remember, in 2024, we heard nonstop that Latino voters were trending Republican. And they were. Immigration and the economy were driving that movement. But something changed, though, and the data shows it very clear. Listen to this.
Latino voters trusted Kamala Harris more than Donald Trump, but by just 2 points. 1, 2. Look now at Donald Trump's net approval rating on immigration among Latinos. He is 38 points underwater. That is a 36-point shift, essentially, from where we were a year ago on immigration. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are basically tied on the issue of immigration. And now on the issue of immigration, Latinos despise, hate Donald Trump. 38 points underwater. In their mind, he is doing something absolutely wrong when it comes to immigration.
Now, 38 points underwater. That's very, very interesting. That's not softening. That's a collapse, a serious collapse among Latino voters for Donald Trump's support. A year ago, immigration was basically tied. He said tied between him and Harris, 2-point difference between Latino voters and between Trump and Harris, the Latino voters. Now he's nearly 40 points in the negative. That's a 30-plus point shift in a single year. What do you think happened? That doesn't happen because people are confused. It happens because something feels personal, very personal. And deporting their relatives and friends is very personal. And when you look at what the Latino independent voters are actually saying, it starts to make sense.
Probably tomorrow or the next day, where I share more of the feedback from this focus group. But there was a man also in his 40s, again, an independent voter, Latino voter. He also said he had some reservations about voting for Trump initially, based on what he was saying at his rallies. But the man said, I took a chance on him, based on what he did in his first term. I thought that it would be okay. Here's what he says now. This man says, it's not the same person. It's not the same president. So it's been very dismaying. And in regard to Trump's rhetoric and his DHS action, or not his DHS actions, but DHS's actions, there was another 30-year-old or 30-something-year-old woman, and she told the moderator this: you're not just deporting people and ripping families apart. You are also creating an environment of hatred and feeding racism. And one guy in the group slammed Trump and said this. He said, Mr. No More Foreign Wars just immediately keeps the funding going to Ukraine. You know, based on what he did in his first term, I thought that it would be okay.
That's it. That's the moment. That's not a talking point. That's not spin. It's not cable news exaggeration. That's somebody's being thrown into cars, separated from families, children taken away, grandma's taken away, abuela's taken away in broad daylight by masked agents. Now imagine if you're Latino and you see that. Imagine you're a citizen and you see that. Imagine you voted for Trump because you were angry about inflation or groceries or rent or whatever, and now you're watching this happen outside a bakery, outside of a hotel, a house, a restaurant, whatever. That's why this man in an interview said he carries his passport everywhere. Not because he's undocumented, because he's afraid of being mistaken. That's the shift. This is why those focus group people said the mask is off. This is why people said, I took a chance on him and I regret it. Not because they suddenly became Democrats, because this doesn't feel like law enforcement. It feels like intimidation. And when people feel targeted, not protected, they pull away. That's how you get 30-point swings in Texas and Louisiana. Not because people love Democrats, because people don't feel like you care or that you want to keep them safe. And here's the warning to Republicans. Those voters didn't say, I'm voting Democrat forever. This is a warning for Democrats too. Some said they would have stayed home. That's danger for both parties. Republicans are bleeding support because of this immigration, because of the economy. Democrats can't assume they won these people back either. This group is volatile now, and the volatile voters decide midterms. This is where we're at.